Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
You make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Welcome to Foster to Foster, and now here's your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil.
Good morning, and welcome to Foster to Foster radio show. This morning, we have one of the most intriguing questions that have been posed to me by a foster youth here in the state of California. One of the foster youth asked me a question several months ago. And they stated, why do they place me there if they gonna lock me up and they know I got problems, Dr. McNeil? So today here on Foster to Foster radio show, we have a show that we've titled Double Jeopardy, Triple Trauma. We want to discuss foster youth that are being placed in group homes or licensed facilities. And at that facility, they receive criminal charges. Yes, you heard me correctly, audience, that a foster youth that's placed under the protection of the state of California could then go to a group home and then receive criminal charges while placed in that group home. I wanted to get to the bottom of it. I wanted to have a moment for us as a community, as a society, to talk about how the most vulnerable children in our society could have such a horrible thing happen to them. So let's take a moment and let's talk about all of the young people that are in our foster care system here in the state of California. What we know to be true, according to the California Department of Social Services, is that we have about 65,000 children in foster care here in California. Youth in group homes or licensed facility make up about 5,800 of the children that live in group homes. According to a study that I have that was placed, that came out in 2015 in the Contra Costa Times by Miss Karen De Sa. I'm sorry, I just messed up her name there, Miss Karen De Sa. There are about 5,800 students or children that live in group homes in the state of California. And an alarming amount of 1,000 will live in that group home for more than 5 years. She also reported that youth in group homes tend to have greater emotional and psychological needs, that most of them are more likely to have been moved to multiple homes and often with a few lasting connections to family or trusted supports outside of the parade of professionals which govern over them. So you can imagine being a young foster child here in the state of California and being placed in a group home after being moved to several group homes within our state, and then finding yourself having tremendous emotional difficulties and trying to figure that out. But another horror, another tragedy that happens to you, that in the midst of having these emotional difficulties, you find yourself being placed or charged with criminal charges. I want to give you one illustration of that I experienced while holding the education rights of a young foster child here in California. We'll call this child AA. AA was placed in a facility, and while she was there, she had tremendous emotional difficulties. But while she was there was a slight altercation with another resident in that facility. And the worker there began to try to diffuse the situation. When she tried to diffuse the situation, she hit a trigger point for AA. And she got in her face and she started to yell a bit and say some things to her. And instantly, my client, who is well known throughout the facility to have great emotional difficulty, began to escalate. That escalation led to the facility calling the police and criminal charges being placed against her while she was in a facility. I want to clarify that the facility that she was placed in is supposed to be equipped to handle students or our young foster children that have emotional difficulties. So the question then becomes, if you are equipped to handle these emotional difficulties, why then do young children, foster children who have no one else to advocate for them, why then do they end up with criminal charges when they have an emotional outbreak in your facility? So I began to research this week and for several weeks to try to get to the bottom of this. And I was able to find a clip by Mr. Joaquin Sapien. And it's on YouTube. You can find it. We're going to play it for you here today on Foster to Foster Radio Show. And this is his video. This movie is titled Level 14. Let us see this.
My whole entire life, my plan was to become a professional soccer player, to go pro. I was playing soccer, and I trying to head the ball. Some guy pushed me from behind. I ruined my knee, just blew it out. Soccer was a big part of my life. And then, like that, it's gone. What am I going to do now? I needed to pay my bills, so I figured I do enjoy working with kids. I wanted to do something that I would feel good about. I wanted to be proud of what I was doing. So I chose to apply for Families First at that point. It's a level 14 group home for emotionally disturbed kids. At that point, it was all boys. It was the last option for these kids.
Families First was one of more than 60 level 14 group homes in California. It was one of the largest, with 72 children at its peak. Level 14 is the highest level of group home within the state system. Only the most troubled youth end up in these facilities. Suleimani Baba worked as a counselor at Families First for almost 5 years.
He was 11, maybe 12, but he was built like a linebacker. This particular boy goes from 0 to 80. He can go from smiling with you to becoming an animal in about 10 seconds. He was abused, physically abused by his father. Dad just beat him up. So that's how he dealt with anything. He's anxious. He wants to hit somebody. You made him smile, he's going to punch you. If he sees any fear in your face, he will run right over you. I remember one incident. We had a secret call because if he knew that you were calling for help, then he was going to target whoever he could get to. You could say mayo or sandwich on the radio, and the staff knew to start running. You need to be there as soon as possible. So when I heard the call, I rushed over there. I got there late. When I got there were already 5 adults, trained staff, waiting outside his door. They looked terrified. He was breaking things apart, tearing up his bed like an animal. I remember thinking, oh my God, this is not the same boy I have known for the past 4 months. I've never seen rage like that. He ripped off the entire windowsill. At the end of it was a sharp metal sticking out. He made a shank. He was holding the shank and swinging it in his room. I was probably the strongest of the staff there. I told myself if I didn't do something, somebody else would have to do it, and they might get hurt. So I told myself it was a challenge. Once I step forward, he slams his door. I'm knocking on the door, verbally engaging with him. We're not trying to fight you. We're just trying to make sure you're safe. But he wasn't listening. The supervisor told me, Sule, we have to force the door open. We counted 1, 2, 3. We pushed in. The door opened up. There was the boy with the shank over my head. I tackled him. We both landed on his bed. And then other staff jumped in, pulled him down, flipped him over, and put him on the floor. It took 8 adults to safely contain this kid. Everything went by so fast, but it felt like slow motion. I remember holding one of his shoulders and blood was dripping. Someone said, "Who's bleeding?" I'm not bleeding. Adrenaline was already pumping. I didn't even know what was going on. I was just glad we were safe. Someone said, "Sule, your head." I flipped my hand and blood was gushing out of my head. A gash, 2 inches on my forehead. That was my first official injury. Family's first of many. I went home just telling myself, wow, is this what I signed up for? I still had a lot to give at that point. I thought I could handle it. If you had the support of your coworkers, you almost felt like a family. You could be 2 men and you feel like a mother and a father. These boys didn't have that growing up. We could be an example. That's what drove me for a long time.
As you can see, the movie portrays a young foster child who has severe emotional difficulties. That's why we have level 14 homes. Those homes are supposed to be equipped to handle individuals or young people that do have severe emotional difficulties. And what we find in the video is we have a gentleman who, at the end of his soccer career, wanted to then help our foster youth. And a major question that I have is the level of training. And so that is what this show is about. We want to get down to, with an injury like that, many of our foster youth here in Southern California may have ended up with criminal charges as a basis of that injury. So they would have gone from that group home in a state of rage to a locked facility that will then put them under the custody of our law enforcement agency. This feels like a little bit of double jeopardy, triple trauma. If our state indeed know that we have these facilities where young people who have the most significant challenges really do not have the skill set to calm themselves down or even to articulate what they're feeling emotionally, how do they end up in prison? And how do they end up in facilities and the person, as we can see from that video, the person that engaged with the individual initially did not have all of the training that's required? Maybe that's the question that we should ask. What's the required training? Maybe the question is, what is our system? Maybe the question is, how can a young child who has the most difficulty and who is the most vulnerable, why are they placed in double jeopardy? You're listening to Dr. Anissa McNeil. This is Foster to Foster radio show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about foster kids who may have double jeopardy and triple trauma. The Unstoppable Awards is a nonprofit organization that provides scholarships to foster youth. If you are a foster youth graduating from high school and live in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, or San Bernardino County, we'd like to offer a scholarship to you if you have a 2.3 to 3.2 GPA, you've overcome some significant challenges, and you've been accepted to a college, university, or trade school. Please visit our website at www.unstoppableawards.org or call our office at 213-634-0044. We'd like to help you. We'd like to make you unstoppable. The Unstoppable Awards and Pitfire Artisan Pizza are joining together to have a Spirit Day. Please join us on October 5th from 3 to 9 p.m. at Pitfire Artisan Pizza, located at 108 West 2nd Street in Los Angeles, California. We want you to come, grab some great food, have some drinks, and help us raise money to give scholarships to foster youth. Yes, you've heard us. Pitfire Pizza, downtown Los Angeles, is a Spirit Day for foster youth and the Unstoppable Awards on October 5th from 3 to 9 p.m. Why don't you come out and join us and help us raise money for the 2017 Unstoppable Awards? Please feel free to get the flyer at our website at www.unstoppableawards.org www.unstoppableawards.org or call our office at 213-634-0044. We're looking forward to seeing you at Pitfire Artisan Pizza, located in downtown Los Angeles, and help us raise money for the 2017 Unstoppable Awards. Education Works Consulting Firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. Give the gift that keeps giving, an education, and help us make foster youth unstoppable. Donate today to the Unstoppable Awards at www.unstoppableawards.org and help build our unstoppable education tree. How are we building that tree? With each of your donations. A donation of $10 provides a Christmas candy cane. A donation of $20 provides a Christmas light. A donation of $50 provides a Christmas ornament. And a donation of $100 and above provides a gift under the tree. We all know that education is a gift that keeps giving. So donate today to the Unstoppable Awards at www.unstoppableawards.org and help us build an unstoppable education tree this Christmas season. Help us make foster youth unstoppable. We're back to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil. Welcome back to Foster Radio Show. We're talking about our foster youth that are in our care facilities that may receive criminal charges on the onset or after an incident. And we're titling this show Double Jeopardy, Triple Trauma. At the beginning of the show, I told you about a story of AA, which was one of my students that I worked with as her ed rights holder. Now I want to tell you about another daunting story of a young lady that I worked with, and we'll call her SM. SM was at a facility, and she had significant emotional difficulties. She would instantly become enraged. Any type of yelling or any type of rejection would send her into a great emotional state. And knowing that, all of us knew that about her and selected this placement based on some of those challenges that she was having, we placed her there. And within about 72 hours, she had an incident at her facility. The facility, due to her emotional state, called the police, and then she was charged with charges and immediately placed in our juvenile hall facility. I was almost just outdone to know that within 72 hours, this young lady could go from losing her parents to going to a facility to then being in juvenile hall. I really don't understand it. And so I'm asking you to please call in. If you have more information to share with me, please call in to 323-284-7826. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from our listening audience. And I do believe we have a caller on the line now. Good morning, caller. You're on Foster to Foster Radio Show with Dr. McNeil. How are you?
Good. How are you? Great show. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're talking about foster youth that have been placed in group home facilities or a licensed facility, and then they find themselves with criminal charges. What's your question this morning, caller?
Well, obviously, I was wondering about the topic since you already mentioned that, but I'd like to know what other resources are out there that maybe other organizations that are more knowledgeable with the law that can protect these children. And provide also the right services for the psychological and emotional, problems that they have. I strongly believe that instead of, taking the kids and charging them, which that will cause additional trauma, just like you had mentioned before, but if they are provided with the right services, we can actually get children, and they will become adults that are actually going to help other ones, that will shine even brighter than anybody could think. I believe these could be kids and children that have a light, but it has been covered up. What are the services that are out there that, if you might know about, that can help this kid?
Sure, absolutely. And I'm so sorry, caller. I forgot your name. What is your name?
This is Janet.
Hi, Janet. Yes, there are several resources here in California to help. If you have a younger child that may be 0 to 3, if you call Advo Kids, that's advokids.org, and they can provide legal assistance for children that are 0 to 3. That's their primary focus. But we also have the California Youth Connection. We also have the Alliance for Children's Rights. And those are some legal entities that can help you in regards to foster youth. Unfortunately, I'm not very aware of many legal entities on the criminal justice side that help or support foster youth that may be charged with crimes while placed in a licensed care facility. And so for that, I would have to refer you to legal aid services here in California. If any of our other listeners may know of a legal firm or a legal resource that deals only with criminal law, that will aid and will assist foster youth that have criminal charges while placed in a facility, I would love to have that information so that I could share that information here on Foster to Foster radio show. But I think you absolutely asked a wonderful question. What are the resources? Those are some of the resources that are out there. And I agree that we need to look at the psychological services that they are receiving. Some of this has to do with trauma, and not some of it. A great portion of it has to do with trauma. And I would say we need to have more trauma-informed services, Janet. We need trauma-informed education. We need not only in the education setting where these young people spend 6 to 7 hours of their day, 5 days a week, but then they need the counseling services to surround that so that they can get all of the tools that they need. And from the study that we read earlier on the show, we know that most kids that are placed in a group home or a licensed facility, that they have such great emotional and psychological needs. That is a call of action for our society, that we need more trauma-informed education, more counseling services. And I'm pleased to tell you that our state is reforming our care facilities. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment of how California is moving away from having young people stay in group homes for a very long time. We're now going to a structure of care where young people will maybe stay up to 30 days in a group home facility. So I'm going to tell you more. I'm going to tell our listening audience a little bit more about that in our upcoming segment. But thank you so much, Janet, for joining us this morning. And
Thank you for keeping us informed.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Awesome. If you're out there and you want to call in just like Janet and you have a question about what's happening, how do foster youth within our state, how do they experience double jeopardy and triple trauma, please give me a call here on Foster to Foster radio show at 323-284-7826. I want to go into a little bit more about, I shared with you a story of SM who received criminal charges. I want to paint the picture for our listening audience of what does it mean when I say that they receive criminal charges. I want you to think about a young person who finds themselves at a group home. The police come. That's not a non-aggressive situation. The police then detain you and take you to a facility. You are then detained in the custody of that facility until you can go before a judge. Can you imagine what type of trauma that is to a young person that is already experiencing an emotional outburst, an emotional trauma? And that's why we need to collectively come together and figure out, can we do something better for these young people? Is there a better way to handle this situation other than calling in the police? Will there be some instances where you may need to call the police? Absolutely. But at the rate in which our young people are experiencing this, I believe that more reform, more help can be done so that these young people who are in the care of our state, do you know when you're in foster care, your mom and your dad become the state of California? So if your mom and dad are the state of California, then we as a state, we can make sure that you don't experience double jeopardy and triple trauma. So I want to talk to you, most of our foster youth, and you know that this show is about answering your questions as well as providing you with resources. So if you are a foster youth and you are listening to the sound of my voice this morning, or you happen to catch us on our YouTube channel, which is Foster to Foster Radio Show on YouTube, or you're following us on iTunes, I want you to go to Foster Youth Rights. And there we have a foster care ombudsman. If you have any concern over your placement or you have any concern of what's happening to you, you have the right to file a formal complaint. You have the right to say, hello, Mom and Dad. Hello, state of California. This is what's happening to me. This is what has happened to me in the care of a licensed facility. And so it's a wonderful handout that you can print out, or you can just simply go on your smartphone or go online and look up some of your rights, what you have the right to. And you have several rights as a foster youth. You have the right to go to court, to talk to the judge when you're in children's court. You have the right to see and get a copy of your court orders and your court report. You have a right to have a copy of your case plan. Your rights ask you to please keep a copy of your court records private unless your lawyer says otherwise. You have a right to be told by your social worker or probation officer and your attorney about changes in your case plan or placement. So here it tells you a lot about your rights. And I really want foster youth to know that if something happens to them, please reach out to your social worker. If you're going to go to court in juvenile delinquency court, call your social worker. Make sure that they indicate when you were placed in that home, why you were placed in that home. Make sure they indicate who was involved in the incident. Ask the court why. Why are you there in juvenile delinquency court? What can be done based on the emotional difficulties that you may have? And I know as a young person, it could be very hard to advocate for yourself. And you may feel that you don't have the knowledge or the tools to really do so. But if you just simply ask a question, ask your social worker, call your children's attorney. And I would really say that if you find yourself with criminal charges in juvenile delinquency court, you want to make sure that you get a hold of your delinquency and your dependency lawyer. These young people will not only have a delinquency lawyer, but they'll have someone in dependency court that handles their foster care case. Call that person. Make sure that that person is communicating to your delinquency attorney as to why you were placed in that group home. How many group homes have you been in? What is your current emotional state? Make sure that you get all of these adults involved in your criminal court case so that hopefully you do not experience this double jeopardy, triple trauma. is happening far too often. There is a news publication in our local area here in Southern California. It's titled The Chronicle of Social Change in LA. And I had an opportunity to speak with Jeremy there. He's one of the writers for that particular publication. And when I spoke to Jeremy, he stated that, Dr. McNeil, this happens far too often. This happens more often than what many of us here in the state really understand is happening to our foster youth. And he did not have the opportunity to be here with us today, but I do want to promote their publication. If you are a foster youth and you want to know what's going on, if you're a concerned citizen here in the state of California and you want to know what's going on with our foster youth, I want you to go to the Chronicle of Social Change in LA. It indicates some of the issues, some of the concerns that are facing foster youth here in Los Angeles today. Why LA? Of the 65,000 children that we have here in the state of California, Los Angeles has 32,000 of those foster youth here in LA County. You can see that this is a great issue for my community, for my neighborhood, for young children that are right here in our own backyard. You're listening to Foster to Foster Radio Show with Dr. Anissa McNeil. Stay tuned for more. Give the gift that keeps giving, an education, and help us make foster youth unstoppable. Donate today to the Unstoppable Awards at www.unstoppableawards.org and help build our unstoppable education tree. How are we building that tree? With each of your donations. A donation of $10 provides a Christmas candy cane. A donation of $20 provides a Christmas light. A donation of $50 provides a Christmas ornament. And a donation of $100 and above provides a gift under the tree. We all know that education is a gift that keeps giving. So donate today to the Unstoppable Awards at www.unstoppableawards.org and help us build an unstoppable education tree this Christmas season. Help us make foster youth unstoppable. Education Works Consulting Firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. The Unstoppable Awards is a nonprofit organization that provides scholarships to foster youth. If you are a foster youth graduating from high school and live in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, or San Bernardino County, we'd like to offer a scholarship to you if you have a 2.3 to 3.2 GPA. You've overcome some significant challenges and you've been accepted to a college, university, or trade school. Please visit our website at www.unstoppableawards.org or call our office at 213-634-0044. We'd like to help you. We'd like to make you unstoppable. The Unstoppable Awards and Pitfire Artisan Pizza are joining together to have a Spirit Day. Please join us on October 5th from 3 to 9 p.m. at Pitfire Artisan Pizza, located at 108 West 2nd Street in Los Angeles, California. We want you to come, grab some great food, have some drinks, and help us raise money to give scholarships to foster youth. Yes, you've heard us. Pitfire Pizza, downtown Los Angeles, is a Spirit Day for foster youth and the Unstoppable Awards on October 5th from 3 to 9 p.m. Why don't you come out and join us and help us raise money for the 2017 Unstoppable Awards. Please feel free to get the flyer at our website at www.unstoppableawards.org or call our office at 213-634-0044. We're looking forward to seeing you at Pitfire Artisan Pizza located in downtown Los Angeles, and help us raise money for the 2017 Unstoppable Awards. We're back to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil. Welcome back, listeners. I want to share with you one last story of the topic that we're talking about today, double jeopardy, triple trauma. One of the most horrific stories that I have experienced of late is someone that we'll call Sammy. Sammy is a person that has significant emotional challenges. And those emotional challenges and many difficulties in other group homes led Sammy to be placed in a different group home. When Sammy was placed there, that individual got into multiple incidents at the group home. The last incident arrived that young person in jail in our juvenile hall system. And what happened with that incident, it involved a knife. And that is what led that person to the juvenile hall system. And in my mind, I was thinking that when individuals have emotional challenges and things happen, do we readily call the police? In this particular facility, that is what happened to this person. It made me think about my own family, and when someone in my own family experiences emotional difficulty. Within my own family, I have cousins who've had significant emotional difficulties. And when that person was at my house, I can remember that person one time it being very angry and enraged and picking up a knife. And I had to talk to my cousin and say, you know what? That's not how we handle this. Let's put this down and calm them down and try to de-escalate that situation. I didn't call the police on my cousin. I didn't have the police come and arrest him and take him off to juvenile hall. So I give you that example. I give you that parallel to say, is there a better way to handle these emotional difficulties? Yes. Did my cousin become emotionally enraged? And he has a history of having emotional difficulty. And everyone in my family knows that. So when that person came to live with me for the summer, he came to live with me all knowing that he's coming to my house with those challenges. So I was wondering, when our foster youth is placed in these licensed facility, is the licensed facility greeting that young person ready to handle all the challenges that they have, knowing that they have these challenges, knowing that we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and work a little bit harder to have this person learn how to integrate and become a part of our normal set of standards, learn how to deal with emotional matters in a much more acceptable way. Are they coming with that? Are they coming with the same grace that I gave to my cousin when something happens? When something happens in our homes, did your mother or father call the police on you? When something happens in our home, are you then carted off to juvenile hall? I would like to know more about this. I can almost assure you that I will continue to do the research on how foster youth who are in a licensed facility are being placed in our juvenile hall system while they are in the care of a licensed facility. I want to tell you more, as promised, about the reform in our change in our care system here within the state of California. Last November, Ms. Karen Dessau produced an article that's titled, California Aids to Stop Warehousing Foster Kids in Group Homes. And in that article, she wrote, under a new law taking effect in January. So yes, as of January 2016, the State's Department of Social Services has a multi-year plan to replace privately run group homes with short-term residential treatment centers, where youth will mostly stay for no more than 6 months. Oh, so please forgive my previous statement that they'll stay for about 50 days. So this says 6 months. Sorry about that error. So here we are. It says in her article that almost $18 million dollars has been set aside so that we can expand this type of care. She says additionally, 30 million ensures that relative caregivers receive the full state foster care rate. So there's a change in our care system. Previously, before 2016, if you were a relative caregiver, you did not receive any type of reimbursement or payment from the state. But as of 2016, it states that relative caregivers may receive some services. So I'll have to drill down and see where we are with that and give you more information on our next show. But what it talks about here in her article is that in 2015, there were 333 private agencies running a total of 1,022 licensed facilities in the state for foster youth in child and welfare juvenile justice systems, as well as developmentally disabled children whose homes cannot care for them. Those facilities will have to go under new regulation so that they meet the new standard that's effective as of January 2016. So it is the hope of this new legislation here in the state of California that foster children will spend far less time in our group home settings and have the opportunity to be placed in a much more structured family setting. That's the hope here in the state of California. And you can see that here in Los Angeles, where we have 32,000 of the 65,000 children that are placed in foster care, you can see that this reform will take great care and great time. The spirit and the onset of the law is tremendous, that we want to have a better care system for our foster youth, and that is to be commended. So let's see how the implementation rolls out. How well do we implement the spirit of this new law that says that we don't want to warehouse our children in group homes? We want them to be placed in a much more family-like setting. And so I'm excited to see how this will be implemented for our foster children here in the state of California. I want to now focus on resources. One of the things that this show really aims to provide is to provide resources for every question that is asked of me by a foster youth. And when the young person stated to me why they placed me there if they gonna lock me up, they know I got problems. That rung so true to my heart. That person was actually very concerned about why they place me in a home. If the home knows I have problems, and the moment those problems manifest or become evident in that group home, why are they calling the cops on me? Now I'm locked up. And so now we really want to talk about it. And I can assure you that this will not be my only show on this question. If you are the young foster youth in our state that asked me that question, I can assure you that I want to get more answers for you. I have been researching this and trying to get more answers for you. So if you're listening out there and you want to share information on this topic, feel free to call us here on Foster to Foster Radio Show at 323-284-7826. So now let's talk about some of the resources that are out there. In regards to the criminal justice system, I wasn't able to find a criminal law firm that handles only foster youth here in the state of California and really works to correct any type of charges that they may have that they acquire while placed in a licensed facility. If any of you know of such a law firm, will you please give me a call here at 323-284-7826, or feel free to call me at my office at Education Works at 323-644-0044. That is 213-634-0044. And so let's go down and talk about more resources. We here in California, we have the California Youth Connection, and they provide a lot of resources and assistance to our youth. We also have advokids.org. If you have a young child that is ages 0 to 3 and you may need some legal advocacy for them, please call AvoKids, and their website is avokids.org. Also, here in the state of California, we have the Alliance for Children's Rights. The Alliance for Children's Rights provides a litany of information and resources for foster youth. The Alliance for Children's Rights, they provide services in regards to education and placements. They have an education toolkit. So if you have a question in regards to legal advocacy for foster youth, and it has to do with education or placement, please reach out to the Alliance for Children's Rights. And last but definitely not least, if you want to stay abreast of all of the changes or the social changes that are happening here in Los Angeles in regards to foster youth, would you please reach out and subscribe to the Chronicle of Social Change in LA? There they have a wonderful publication that indicates all of the changes that are happening in regards to foster youth. They also indicate any of the concerns or any social ills that are happening with our foster youth. And there again, their name is the Chronicle of Social Change in LA. This morning, we tried to drill down to and really talk about what could be double jeopardy and triple trauma for our foster youth. We really want to have an opportunity for our community, for our society, for every adult around children who do not have a mom and a dad to advocate for them, to really think about what will happen to our young children in our society who are the most vulnerable, who may have experienced multiple placements in group homes and licensed facilities, as well as they have significant emotional or behavioral challenges. Why then are the most vulnerable children being charged with criminal charges while in the care of our licensed facility when an incident occurs? It makes me want to ask a lot of questions that I simply don't have the answer to this morning, which goes down to the training of the individuals that work in our licensed facility. It goes to what are the steps that happen when a young person has an emotional or a behavior outburst? How often are the police called out to these facilities and our children are being arrested? When I spoke to Jeremy at the Chronicle of Social Change in Los Angeles, he said that this happens far too often in our community, that we have many foster youth that go from our licensed facility to being detained in our criminal justice system. We have to pay attention, LA. We as a society can do better than that. I know we can. I know we can. That's why I want to bring it to your heart and to your mind this morning. I want to challenge each and every one of us to get to know a little bit more about this topic so we can stop young children from experiencing double jeopardy. I don't know if you know what it's like to be removed from your parents, but I do. I know what it's like to walk into a new home and not know anyone. You're scared. You're terrified. You don't know what these people are going to do to you, what they're going to say. Now imagine if you go through that multiple times. Do you know the level of abandonment and fear that these young people must experience? Can you imagine feeling that and having emotional difficulty, only to have an outburst at a group home or a licensed facility and then find yourself in jail? When I went to a group home in Florida, I was not my best emotional self. I was very angry as a young girl. So can you imagine being that angry and then having a fight in a group home or having something happen and you are carted off to juvenile hall? That to me feels like double jeopardy. That to me feels like triple trauma. I'm Dr. Anissa McNeil. Thank you for listening to Foster to Foster Radio Show. Be sure to tune in next week.